Hello, my name is Faye, and of course, this is practical psychology. So, in this video, we're going to be talking about the structure of a psychological report, everything that you need to know that should be inside a report. Remember that we did a lot of experiments, right? So, these experiments, different questions can come out of it, and the way they'll be testing us or giving us exam questions for this question is mostly in the reports that we have written. It won't be as a result of going to do other experiments. So we are focusing on the structure, the do's and don'ts, the major parts of a psychological report. So the first one is the title page. It has to be clear and concise. It has to reflect the study, the name of researcher, then the abstract should be between 150 to 250 words to be on the safe side. Some people request for 300, not more than 300, while some people say between 100 and 200. But the safest figure is between 150 to 250 words. So in this abstract, it is usually written last. Note that it is written last after every other thing has been written, but it is the first thing that appears on the psychological reports after your title. So the abstract would include why the study was conducted, the method, like how the study was conducted, design, participants, material. It's going to be in one paragraph, and you don't break it into like parts. Ideally, that's how an abstract looks. And then what's your key findings, your results, what you found in the as a cause of the experiment, and then the conclusion, what your results mean. It's a summary of the entire paper, so that's what the abstract is. Then you go next to your introduction, which talks about the background and rationale of your experiment. So you explain the topic of interest, you summarize the relevant psychological theories and past research that has like some relation to what experiment you just carried out. Okay, so let's use one of the examples now. One of the experiments we did, rather. So the first one is, let's say, bystander effect. The title your group used, go and check it. So you add it. Then your abstract in your report, you also read like the findings, the main things there. Your introduction, you read how your group puts the background, explain the problem of interest, summarize psychological theories and past research, and then stating research gap, like what is missing in that literature review. Everything, I believe, if you and your group did, of course we all did because it's part of our CA. So every report writing has like these steps. All you have to do is note the essentials, note the non-negotiables, so that you know, okay, if they are asking for the key parts of a psychological report, you know what to write. So as I continue, I've mentioned just two major ones: title, abstract, and introduction. That's the third one. So your fourth thing is your hypothesis and your aims. So you clearly state the research question. Remember that research questions are important. What question is your research aiming to answer? Then you include the hypothesis for experimental whatever, like your experiment rather. So this part you're saying, oh, you're stating your null hypothesis, your alternate hypothesis, you are stating the research questions that your experiment is trying to answer. That is your hypothesis and aims. Then you go for your methodology. This methodology is broken down into some parts, such as design, participants, materials and measures, then procedure. So for the design, you state the type of experiment, you identify your IV and your DV, you mention if it's between subjects or within subjects. So if it's the same set of participants you're using, maybe testing them at two different times, or you're using totally different participants, you have to totally different, yes, participants. So you have to state that in your design. Then your participants, you have to decide understand your sample size, or know your sample size. Selection method, was it random, was it convenient sampling? The selection method, your sample size, your demographic details, and then the ethical considerations. Or in the videos you made, did you was there informed consent? Did you later tell them that this is what happened, that you were trying to do an experiment, or you didn't have to tell them at all? Like, you put that under participant. And then for materials and measures, of course, you know the kind of the materials you use: pen, pencils, camera, writing materials, basically, recording sheets, you describe your tests, your skills, your surveys, if they include any. Then add your validity and reliability of the instruments that you use. That's your materials and measures. Remember that these ones I'm mentioning, all of them are under methodology, right? So we now go to procedure. This is a step by step explanation. Like, you are not missing a bit. From where you people set out under hot sun, you write it to the point where everybody was tired and you go home. I mean, of course, the good details, the necessary details of the experiment, but it is meant to be detailed. It is your abstracts that you write a summary of this part, but in this part, the procedure, it's a step-by-step explanation of what participants did. Every single person that did something, you say what they did, and then you describe the control measures, the randomization or counterbalance, like you describe everything. Then you now move on to the next. I'm done with methodology. Let me repeat that. Methodology includes design, participants, materials and measures, then procedure. Then you go next to results. Now your results could either be your results should be descriptive and inferential. Like, you should have those in your report. So your descriptive statistics is mainly your mean, standard deviation, frequency tables, just charts and maybe things that you can show, like that can represent your data in numerical values. That is what you are doing in your descriptive statistics. Then for inferential statistics, you are reporting statistical tests. Did you use t-test? Did you use ANOVA? Did you use regression? Did you use chi-square? Then your significant levels, was it 0.05 you use? Mostly in psychology we advise to use 0.05, but in things like medicine they use 0.01 because those are like human life. So like our significance levels, that's our p-values, effect sizes and confidence intervals, all of these should be in your inferential statistics. Also your data presentation, using tables, graphs and figures to summarize findings. I mean, that's mostly your descriptive, like everything you are representing you are showing in numerical value. So for the discussion, this is where you're interpreting your findings. What did your experiment show you? Did your results support your hypothesis? Do you know those hypotheses and research questions that you asked in the beginning? So did your results support the hypothesis? Explain why it did or why it did not. And then there are certain terms that we use to indicate it in our report writing that our hypothesis was either accepted or rejected. We don't just say, oh, I accept the hypothesis, my hypothesis was right. No, you don't use such terms. The correct terms to use is, we fail to reject an hypothesis. That means you are accepting the hypothesis, but you failing to accept the hypothesis means that you are rejecting the hypothesis. I hope you understand this because it's very key. So remember, you're not just saying, oh, my result was good, it was the opposite of my hypothesis. No, you are saying it in these terms. You fail to reject the hypothesis or you fail to accept the hypothesis. That's the right term to put it. Then you compare the past research. Are findings consistent or different? The findings you did in that people have done in the past, are they different from what you did now, or are they the same? Is there consistency? That means nothing changes. It is true and it is proven to be more true even in your own experiments. Next thing under discussion is limitations. You have to put your potential weakness. Maybe you used a small sample size. If you had elaborated on the sample size, maybe there will be a better kind of result. Maybe there were biases or validity concerns, like whatever the limitation was, the weaknesses of the experiment, you put it there. Then the threats to internal or external validity that was present in your experiment. You know what internal and external validity is, in the previous video, so please refer to it. Also under discussion, you write the implications of this experiment that you did and the future research. How do these findings apply to real world psychology? Now, experimental psychology, you are doing the field work, so how does it now apply to the real world? And then suggestion for future studies. After your discussion, you go next to conclusion, which is summarizing your key findings. Oh, you got this, this was how, why, this was why not. Write that in your conclusion and reinforce the main takeaway of the study. Now, this last part is very important, which is your references. You have to follow the APA format. Remember our latest edition, 7th edition APA style. If it's less, It's not, you people remember the assignments now. Okay, I don't need to tell you anything again. Seventh edition, follow the rules of the APA style. Try to understand where use of italics, the use of dating and names. Know that okay, only last names and then the other names are in abbreviations. All of that you have to get an APA manual and try and read through it. Then if you have data like our reciprocity experiment, the data we had was he asked us to show the screenshots, the pictures as an appendix. So you have to add it to your data. If you have such data, you have to add it to your report. The appendices such as the questions, your screenshots, your raw data tables, your consent forms that people like, anything could be in your appendices. So you need to add that, and that is for that. Just a brief summary: stick to APA format, the structure, the citations, the heading. Be clear and concise. You don't want to be saying too much story. As detailed as you want to be, you have to be clear and you have to be concise. Avoid unnecessary details. Oh, the car was coming and then it almost is. No, no, no. You take the only important. Fine, you want to be detailed, but take only the important part of the experiment. Use objective languages. Avoid bias and subjective opinions. You want to talk to some people, you're not going to say things like disabled people. No, you have to use like objective, maybe people with so and so disability or and all of that. Then link results to past research. Show how your findings fit into the past and existing research in psychology as a whole. And don't just report numbers or values or numerical data. You have to interpret them in the discussion section. Thank you.